You know that feeling, right? Where you're putting in just a ton of effort, maybe building something online or trying to get a business going,
Hmm.
but you're just not seeing the kind of traction you really expect. I think we've all been there.
Oh, absolutely. It's a really common thing, that feeling of disconnect, between the sheer hard work and, well, the actual results. It can be pretty disheartening.
Well, today we're doing a deep dive into a concept that honestly might just unlock why that happens sometimes. We've been looking at a transcript from a recent YouTube video.
Right?
The title's in Japanese, but it basically translates to something like the real secret to earning a million yen a month. Bet everything on your center pin.
And this is from a channel called Rumor No Takahashi, the broadcast room of a fired man. The guy behind it, Takahashi, talks about making, well, serious money by his 20s.
Yeah, hundreds of millions of yen, he claims.
And now he's living that fire lifestyle, financially independent, retire early, kind of traveling the world. And his whole angle seems to be sharing his philosophy, almost like he's talking to his past 18-year-old self.
Exactly. And this core idea he gets into is the center pin. He uses this great analogy, actually. Bowling.
Oh, right, like the head pin.
Precisely. You hit that center pin just right, boom, strike, everything goes down. But if you miss it, you could throw the ball super hard and still leave a bunch of pins standing.
Makes sense. So the idea is to apply that to, well, whatever you're working on.
Yeah, our goal here for you listening is to figure out how this center pin idea can help you zero in on what really drives success, what truly matters.
So hopefully you'll get a clearer picture of why some efforts really pay off, yield big results, while others, even with tons of energy poured in, just kind of fizzle out. It's about finding that key point of leverage.
Okay, so the speaker, Takahashi, he starts by hitting on that frustration we mentioned. Working super hard, but the money or the audience growth, it's just not happening.
Right. And his main point is it's often because people aren't focused on the center pin, that absolute core, the essence of what they're trying to do.
They're busy doing
They
other stuff.
Yeah, exactly. He argues a lot of effort gets wasted on things that are, well, less impactful instead of hammering away at the fundamental thing that actually leads to success in whatever field they're in.
So let's really try and define this center pin clearly. The way he puts it, it's the single most effective point you need to focus on in any business, any project.
Hmm. And he gives some really good concrete examples, which helps make it less abstract.
Definitely. Like for a restaurant, he says flat out, the center pin is the taste, the food.
Right. You could have the fanciest decor, the best location,
Hmm.
but if the food is just okay, or worse, bad,
It's probably not going to last long term. That core thing, the taste, it's got to be there.
it's paramount. And then for something like YouTube,
For YouTube, it's not the, super slick editing or the craziest clickbait thumbnail. Not initially, anyway. The real center pin is the creator's actual skill, their knowledge, the quality of what they're actually saying or showing.
what unique thing do they bring to the table? What's their expertise?
Exactly. And you can broaden that out, right?
Yeah.
For any business offer, the center pin is the value itself. Does this thing genuinely help someone solve a real problem?
Is it actually delivering something meaningful to the customer? That's the core.
Okay, and here's where it gets, I think, really insightful.
Mm.
He basically says that without that strong center pin, all the other stuff, the advertising, the fancy design in that restaurant with the bad food,
Mm-hmm.
the flashy edits on a video that's, well, empty, it's ultimately pointless. A waste of effort. He calls it futile and just the facade.
It might get you a quick look, maybe some initial clicks, but it won't stick. People see through it eventually.
It's like a building a house on sand, right? Looks okay for a minute.
But it won't hold up. That foundation, the core, has to be solid.
He uses this fantastic example, Jiro-style ramen shops. Now, if you're not familiar, Jiro ramen is intense, huge portions, really rich flavor.
Yeah, it's an experience, but what it's definitely not famous for is, let's say, warm, fuzzy customer service.
Ah, that's putting it mildly. He tells this story about going there and basically being told off for talking while eating.
Pretty blunt. But he still goes back, and so do tons of other people. They line up for it.
Why? Because the taste, that incredibly powerful, addictive flavor that is the center pin, it's so good, apparently, that people just tolerate the less than stellar service.
It really shows how powerful that core offering can be. If it's truly exceptional, other things become almost secondary for a lot of customers.
It's a great illustration. So let's connect this back to online content like YouTube.
Yeah.
He really hammers this point. Your fundamental skill, your actual experience, that's the critical center pin.
He asks these questions, and they're really good for anyone creating stuff online to think about, what are you actually good at?
Right. What can you genuinely talk about with authority? What real experience do you have?
Because without that core expertise, that substance,
Mm.
all the time you spend on like keyword research for titles or making the perfect thumbnail or jumping on trends.
It might get you some views, sure, but it won't build a real audience.
Yeah.
You get low retention, poor engagement, no real fans, and certainly no sales usually. It's just superficial.
And he's not just talking theory here. He brings in his own experience.
Yeah, he talks about his old channel, Dai Henjin channel, great transformation channel, huge numbers, 500,000 subscribers, videos regularly getting 700,000, 800,000 views.
Wow. And making, what was it, around 300 million yen from
Yeah.
it in just a couple years. That's serious success.
No kidding. But what's really interesting is what happened next.
The copycats.
Exactly. He said after his channel blew up, suddenly all these similar channels started popping up. Names like Dramatic Before After Channel or One Shot Transformation Channel.
Trying to ride the wave.
Yeah.
Mimicking the look and feel.
Totally. They copied the visuals, the concepts, hoping to grab some of that same audience.
Makes sense. People try to replicate what works.
But, and this is the key part, despite looking really similar on the surface, these copycat channels completely bombed. He says their videos would maybe get a few thousand views, tops. Most just faded away.
Which really drives home that point about the center pin, doesn't it? You can copy the wrapper, but you can't easily copy what's inside.
Precisely. The imitators could mimic the style, the format, but they couldn't replicate the genuine skill that was powering the original channel.
And he's quite specific about what that skill was.
Very. He says his original channel, Great Transformation, was led by him, and he had a background as a top host, like in the entertainment or nightlife industry.
Okay.
And this top hairstylist, someone who'd actually won national awards, their combined real-world expertise, plus the work they put into researching video techniques and presenting well, that was their center pin.
It wasn't just luck or a gimmick. It was built on actual demonstrable talent and deep experience.
Right. Whereas the imitators, often just, college students or people starting out in those fields, they didn't have that same foundational strength. Their stuff looked similar, but it lacked the substance.
The core skill wasn't there, so the imitation felt hollow.
So, okay, this brings up a big question then.
Yeah.
If the center pin is so crucial, why do so many people seem to avoid focusing on it? Why chase the superficial stuff?
Well, his explanation is pretty direct. He thinks it's kind of scary.
Scary. How so?
Well, scary to really confront the possibility that maybe you don't actually have that deep, genuine skill yet in the area you've chosen.
Right. It's uncomfortable to face that maybe you're not as good as you'd like to be or need to be.
Exactly. So instead of doing the hard work to build that skill, it feels easier, maybe safer, to focus on things you can control more easily, like marketing tactics, editing tricks.
Chasing trends, learning the latest hack.
Right. You become what he calls a know-how collector. You gather all this information about how to do things.
But without the fundamental substance, the actual skill, to make any of it truly effective.
Yeah.
It's like knowing all the ingredients, but not actually being able to cook the meal.
That's a good way to put it. You lack the core competence.
Okay, so if that's the problem, what's the solution? How do you actually build or strengthen your center pin?
His advice is pretty straightforward, actually. Focus. Intense focus. Pick one specific area and dedicate yourself to developing real skill in it. Get good enough to show actual demonstrable results.
Don't try to do everything at once.
Exactly. He really warns against spreading yourself too thin. Trying to be good at 10 things usually means you end up mediocre at all of them. It's about deep work in one key area.
And he gives some solid examples of what that looks like in practice. Like, if you want to be a successful personal trainer, don't just be someone who kind of likes working out. Go compete. Win a physique competition. Something significant.
Right. Achieve something tangible that proves your expertise. It's not just saying you know about fitness, it's demonstrating it.
Or his other example, if you want to give dating advice,
Yeah.
you should probably have some serious runs on the board yourself.
Yeah.
Maybe you were a top host who really understood social dynamics. Or you have a killer track record matching people up.
Again, it's about having that real-world success, that lived experience that backs up what you're saying. That's where credibility comes from, built on results.
He also makes a point about choosing wisely. You need to be discerning about which center pin you focus on.
Right. It needs to be something where you actually have some aptitude, some potential to really excel, not just chasing every shiny new interest.
Yeah, finding that intersection of your talent, your passion, and maybe what the world actually needs or values.
And he also touches on how the landscape has changed, today with so much content out there.
Audiences are smarter, more discerning.
Definitely. What might have worked years ago, just being new or flashy,
Mhm.
that often doesn't cut it anymore. People can usually tell the difference between real expertise and someone just, faking it.
So, real success now often belongs to those who have both the genuine skill and know how to communicate it effectively. You need both parts.
The skill is the foundation, the center pin.
Mhm.
The communication, the marketing, that helps amplify it. But without the core skill, there's nothing substantial to amplify.
Okay, now let's talk about the upside. What happens when you do focus on that center pin, when you build that real skill? He describes this kind of positive feedback loop
Yeah, it's like a virtuous cycle. First, he says genuine skill just naturally attracts people, fans, an audience, even if your marketing isn't perfect.
because people recognize mastery. They're drawn to competence,
Exactly. Then, those engaged fans, the ones who value your skill, they're much more likely to become customers. They'll pay for what you offer because they trust your ability.
which makes sense. And then those sales, they
Right.
build your credibility, right? They provide social proof.
Success stories, happy clients. That enhances your reputation, your authority.
And that enhanced credibility then opens up new doors. New opportunities start coming your way, maybe collaborations, bigger projects.
It just snowballs. Each success builds on the last, fueled by that strong center pin. It creates this upward spiral.
And to bring it back to him, he uses his own story as the prime example of this.
Right. All his past successes, being a top host, success in that underground industry he mentions, the massive YouTube channel, becoming a multimillionaire so young.
All of that builds the foundation for his current channel.
Mm.
People listen because he has that track record. It gives him credibility when he talks about making money or living life on his own terms.
And his current income, which he mentions, is around 20 million yen a month, mainly from his salon business, Legal. That just reinforces it further. It shows his principles still work.
It's a powerful demonstration of the whole philosophy in action. Past center pin mastery fueling present success.
And because that foundation is so strong, he can see future growth too. Like he mentions maybe offering higher ticket programs to his existing salon members down the line.
Right, because he's already earned their trust and demonstrated his value. That allows him to expand.
It's that natural progression. You master one core thing, build a reputation, and then you can leverage that to explore related opportunities.
So yeah, wrapping up this core message, he really just drills it down. All real, lasting success starts with identifying, focusing on, and truly mastering that single center pin. Everything else is secondary.
Forget the distractions, the superficial stuff. Focus on the absolute core value you bring. That's the message. It's about substance over style, competence over just hype.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I think the main takeaway for you listening is really clear. Find your center pin. What's that core skill, that unique value you offer? And then just relentlessly focus on strengthening that.
Yeah, try to resist that temptation to get pulled in a million directions by, shiny objects or quick fixes. Commit to the deep work of building real expertise in what matters most.
And maybe here's a question to leave you with, something to really think about.
Yep.
What is the one thing, the one center pin in what you're doing right now, that if you poured all your energy into mastering it, would make the biggest difference? Would make almost everything else start to fall into place?
That's a powerful question because truly getting this and actually applying the center pin idea, it could really shift how you approach things, moving beyond just tactics to focusing on fundamental value.
Ultimately, focusing on your center pin, it's not just about working harder, it's about working smarter, with more clarity, more intention, taking the most direct path to the results you're actually aiming for.